Hey guys, welcome to Overtakes. This is Misfit, and I'm with Kel, and we got some special guests here today. We have Totemlydrunk from the OWLN network. Obviously, we've been on with him before. How you doing, Totem?
Doing pretty good. Wrapped up one podcast, here to do another. Same old, same old.
Your takeover is almost complete now, isn't it?
I'm getting there. I got a couple more to knock off, and then yeah, more on that later.
Right on. And then we got Nomad from the Mayhem Maniacs Podcast. How we doing, Nomad?
Nope, I'm Nomad, but I'm also really known as Leggoeman on the Mayhem Maniacs Podcast.
That's right. So,
no worries. Basically, I like to rant about the Florida Mayhem throughout the entire off-season. The first season, you find that I am very obnoxious and very loud whenever it comes to certain situations. But when the team has been as bullshit as every other Florida team throughout the entire state's history, you know I'm going to be out there throwing out some masochism.
Yeah. Well, listeners to our show know how I am. I just lose my fucking mind with the Mayhem.
And as a Cleveland sports fan, I fully understand any masochism and whatnot that goes along with that.
Unfortunately, it's bleeding into my football team now, too, because they're 0-3, and they look like hot garbage. So,
yeah.
Kel, how we doing?
Doing good. Just playing, actually getting back into the swing of things and forcing myself to play the game, even though the lever problem seems to be worse and worse. Levers and throwers have just been obnoxiously awful in the game lately.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you guys had any of that? Like when in your experiences playing, a lot of levers, a lot of throwers?
Not lately.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get back into the game, like with the recent roll lock. I haven't really done as much. I was always like a main tank the entire time because that was like the fill position. But yeah, I don't know. With me in the plat chat area, I would say my games have been pretty good, in my opinion.
Yep. I don't know what it is. It's like it just the last couple of days, every time I play, I get like somebody that just starts to throw or leaves the game or something. But all my games today were pretty solid, so
I've been on the teamfight tactics. I'm down. It's fun. I kind of messed around with it today. Nobody really wants to talk about that in an Overwatch League podcast, but the new patch, I'm trying to figure out the new things, and I'm working my way up through silver. I started all the way at the bottom. I'm figuring things out, but it's fun. But Overwatch, I played 2 matches yesterday. One, I had somebody just living with their mic on and not at their keyboard. And the other match, someone decided to play tank that never played tank before. And mind you, I'm about silver-ish with my in support. And they just I don't know, they decided to DPS with Orisa and not put shields down or anything like that, so that was fun.
Well, it just balances out if you're DPSing with Moira. So
yeah.
it'd be
hey, I'm a healer with Moira, though. I'm the opposite. I actually use the yellow ball.
You see, you're doing it wrong.
Oh.
if you don't have 5 goals, you
better start being a healer with Moira right now, because with the recent PTR patch, that is going to completely dumpster you if you're playing to go DPS Moira. Good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah,
right.
I like playing healer Moira, though. It's kind of like I don't know. I just like surprising people, I guess. They're like, oh shit, you're healing me. What the fuck?
Surprise! I'm a competent support main.
Yeah. Please be a competent tank main. That's all I ask for.
Yeah, that's a tall task anymore.
Competent supports. God, I really wish that was on the Mayhem. God damn it.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say something, but 2 years in a row. 2 years going.
2 years going, and I'll tell you what, as much as you could always jump on the bandwagon, Mineral was a terrible coach and whatnot. Let's not forget, this guy had overloaded so many, I think Ben Spoot just said, our League of Legends team, we probably only use 1 or 2 coaches. Let's do the same thing with Overwatch, and the same thing would probably magically happen. We'll do the 3rd place and possibly make past the spring and summer split, make it the world. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
yeah, not really in this.
Go ahead. Oh yeah. So I mean, the decision making under Ben Spoot, I think throughout the first season, really shows that he had no idea what he was doing with this team from start to finish.
Oh, definitely not.
With the overloaded. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you went from an overrated EU team to budget Korea.
No, of course.
So you went from a Saab to a Hyundai.
Yeah. It's just like my mom's Veracruz, like the entire surface of it cracks after a couple of years.
All right.
But the fact that like Mineral is like overloaded with all those tasks, like not only just being the head coach, but it's like the psychologist, the scout, the analyst, the
Well, he wasn't the bus driver, so he had that going for him.
Yeah, no, Zabig was given the traveling duties, so hey, props out to him. But, the first season of Florida Mayhem was an absolute mess, and even when we were transitioning from like English speaking to Korea, on top of the fact that P1A visa in the United States is next, it's very, very difficult to get. Our entire season was like doomed from the starting gates.
Yeah.
I had a pretty solid rant on my podcast on that one episode, and it just like went downhill for us.
Yeah, I've had a few solid. Cal every once in a while lets me go, and I just lose my fucking mind. But
Right.
then I do the there is a chance, or I'm the dog sitting in the middle of the room on fire. This is fine. Side player's fine, but he's playing Brig.
Yes.
This is good.
God. All right. So do we have any? So we have one piece of news that I know for sure, and that's the signing of Moon for Shanghai as their head coach. That's really the biggest news of the week. Any thoughts on that?
It's a promotion because he was with Team CC, which was the Dragons Academy team.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like, it's kind of a redemption arc for him since he was let go from the Valiant back in like March during the whole GOATS meta. I will say though, like, his work in Team CC was pretty good. They only really lost in the grand finals, which they did lose to LGE Hiwa. But it's always nice to see someone get in a second chance opportunity, just because like the Valiant at the time, they had too many issues going on at the time of the 3-3 meta. You had the whole big brain Custa being too smart for the current meta bullshit that was going on with that team. But I always like when teams stay in-house in regards to their
organization. Yeah, me too.
So it's a good move for them.
Yeah, I like it better than them just going out and going, oh, that guy over there just got let go by somebody, and let's grab him. If they would have grabbed like Tyrong or something like I don't know why you would do that because Houston, but anyway.
Here's my opinion on Moon overall. I think Moon had a really good vision for the Los Angeles Valiant in Season 1, especially with the meta change. Despite like when you look at the meta change in Stage 4 of Season 1, you found that like the entire Los Angeles Valiant had like the best stage of their entire lives. Not only making it to the playoffs, but being the Los Angeles Gladiators and also taking down the New York Excelsior in their Stage 4 championship. So when I saw Moon, I was thinking, wow, this guy's amazing. This guy knows how to synergize a team, he knows how to organize it, and he knows how to execute strategies. When the next stage came around, I felt really confused on why the Los Angeles Valiant did so poorly. Because in Stage 4, that's when GOATS meta was starting to start out. But of course, that's when we still had break stuns to the shields and all this kind of BS.
Yeah, people were feeling out the Brig thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I don't know what happened in the off season that made the Los Angeles Valiant completely fall off a cliff. Maybe it's just the fact that the Pacific Division and its new teams were something that Moon just didn't expect. But I really got to applaud the Los Angeles Valiant for spotting a problem right in the beginning, not like letting it ferment and be disgusting later on down the season. They actually saw that, Moon's vision is just not our vision. We're seeing that he wants to go for more Korean players. He wants to go for more of a Korean-centric kind of mentality. While we kind of see that, the current NA squads, at least in contenders and in also on other teams that maybe teams say, these players aren't worth it, like Florida Mayhem, felt like a good fit for them. And that's probably why they got rid of Moon and brought in Packing 10, because they wanted a different vision. They wanted something that was more towards a mixed roster rather than a full Korean roster. Now, with him being on the Shanghai Dragons, that's actually going to be something a little bit better. But let's not forget, the Shanghai Dragons have gone through 5 coaches. I think the most out of any team in the league. Now, of course, that has to do with scandals, corruption with 1 or 2 coaches. I think
right.
RUI probably had the scandal with the 10-hour practice times. And then, I forget, was it UI or something like that? I think had a huge scandal with the same Shanghai Dragons, and he had to immediately get let go. I was kind of surprised how Bluehouse was immediately let go, but then again, like the Shanghai Dragons were expected to be like 8th, 5th seed during the off season, and then they made 12th during the regular season. They just fell off a cliff in stage.
I think a lot of that had to do with the way that they collapsed in the last stage. Like they looked so good in stage 3, and you expected them to at least carry some of that momentum into stage 4, and they just completely fell apart. So I can't be surprised that someone had to go. I do think that bringing in Moon is a good move for them, because I think he's going to bring them a little more stability, and just he'll be able to work well with the guys that they have on that team, being a full Korean roster, and just be able to bring that a little more cohesion. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he has longer tenure than anybody else that's been there, because that'll be more than one stage.
Yeah, I'm also expecting some other promotions coming out of the camp of Team CC. Like, I know they recently released Bunny, but Bunny's someone I could definitely see joining the Dragons going into the 2020 season. And the off-tank position on the Dragons has always been kind of like a big question mark, so I would not be too far-fetched to see someone like Sia getting promoted to the main roster at this point, just because, like, that's been, like, one of the things lacking for that team's identity is just that off-tank spot, and both Kaguri and Envy both had their fair share of struggles throughout the 2019 season, so I've expected them to address that moving forward.
Yeah.
It feels like Envy was just kind of a Band-Aid to put on it. Just like, okay, bring in anybody you can just because we need to.
And he's more of like a diva specialist, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like some of these guys,
diva
I think
dive specialist.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think they're in this position with Gagori, like, what do we do? And do we put her in? Is she, she's more of a diva. She's really good at Zarya. What do we do? I think they're at that point with her, because I think there would be bad PR if they got rid of her. But if she's not, like, fitting what they're trying to do, do you see where I'm going? I'm not saying that, like, she should be in the league, but it's like they're trying to do one thing, but if they're like, if we get rid of her, what are people going to say?
And I understand their hesitation with that, but at the same time, it's like, if you can't make the roster, you can't make the roster. And I do think that...
But I think she's decent enough, but I don't think she's...
But you got to be able to move on, and I think she'll either find another place, or honestly, if she doesn't, then, hey, that's just how the league works. And then on top of that, I don't think that she will be the only female for very much longer either. I feel like there's
some other good players
there
too.
Might be one or two more female players that come in for the next season.
The one thing I do have to say is that everyone's been noting Gaguri for her amazing Zarya play, but you realize the Shanghai Dragons did not put her in for the Zarya position the entire season. Yeah, she was probably put in for like the diva position maybe 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
But, if she's been known for her Zarya, why wasn't she starting for her Zarya? And that kind of makes you really think her practice sessions maybe weren't that great. And quite frankly,
it should be it should be like a side note. It was like season 2, 3 Zarya, which was totally different than Goat Zarya.
Right. Back when she was more of a main tank than a...
Yeah, when you're playing her totally different. It's like Spree was really good as well.
We saw a little bit of Spree, but
that was in last year. But like this year, you didn't see him either. They're the same. Zarya changed.
Yeah.
Like the play style.
Here's the biggest problem we're going to be looking into the future overall. Like, you're not going to pick like a player that's very centric to a certain hero. However, like you look at Mayhem, they pick BQB because he's more of a Sombra specialist. He's a guy who plays well under that character. But then you look at his other characters in his hero pool overall. He was a really good May this season. I mean,
he did really good.
He did exceptionally well in that role. The problem with Gaguri is that she can't adapt to what meta change comes in. Like, if you're telling me, like, oh, yeah, she was good in Zarya when she was a main tank, but as a DPS character, she's not that good, then you've already failed there in that scenario. Like, you're only as good as you are in the meta. And that's the biggest thing that teams need to avoid is meta-centric teams. Boston Uprising, Toronto Defiant are prime examples of this. They were meta-centric. Well, I mean, I guess maybe that's Toronto Defiant, at least in the first half of the season, but
they got
even look at the Shanghai Dragons right now, due to the fact that they were such
triple
a
DPS.
Team. Yeah, exactly, with a triple DPS here and there. But yeah, I mean, there was such a meta-centric team that they fell off when the meta shifted. And that's something that teams need to avoid. They need to be able to adapt, like what the San Francisco Shock and the Vancouver Titans and the New York Excelsior have done so well season after season. And that is simply adapting to the meta.
Yeah, and
Detroit can adapt to that.
Yeah, for sure. So the other big news this week is the Houston Outlaws have let go of both of their coaches, or most of their coaching staff. I can't remember their names off the top of my head.
It was Tyrone and...
Yeah, Tyrone.
Tyrone, yeah.
And Hyunwoo was the other one.
And Hyunwoo, yeah. So both of them have been let go. I mean, is anybody surprised by this?
Absolutely not.
No.
No. They underperformed since last year. We'll talk about them later.
I think there will be more wholesale changes coming to their roster as well.
Like, I feel bad for the Outlaws with everything that was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Obviously, so much was just due to the fact...
especially this year, yeah.
The financing, the sale of the team going on, which basically made it where they couldn't make any moves. Everything was frozen, so they basically, okay, this is what you have, and you can't do anything. And we're working with a negative budget, essentially, so couldn't make any sort of swaps. But, like, you know, I'm not surprised. Tyrone, I'm sure, is going to land in another spot. At the end of the day, like, I don't want to put all the blame just on the coach staff.
Oh, no.
When you're out there admitting that you accidentally left someone out there when he should have been subbed out, like, on social media, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, don't admit that mistake on that sort of platform, because it just makes you think, like, well, is everything they're doing not on purpose? What is going on with this team? And it really makes you scratch your head at the end of the day, not knowing what was meant to happen versus what was supposed to happen.
Yeah, that and the whole thing with Flame, he's kind of like, he's like the voice of the coaches, kind of. You know, the whole thing with Flame and Monty going back and forth this year, it was like a whole thing of, I don't know, something needed to change. And I kind of, you know, I rail on them because, well, why not?
Because it's easy.
It's I'm a Mayhem fan, and I can rail on something. So why not Houston? But yeah, it needed to be done. But I kind of feel bad that they couldn't do anything in the middle of the season when they kind of could have set the ship right a little bit. But it's at least now they're moving forward and they can kind of start progressing it for next year into something. I mean, they have a massive fan base, so at least this dude's from Houston. Unfortunately, I mean, I know you're from Chicago, Totem, but did you really want the Outlaws?
No, but you know, we did get Hex for the Call of Duty team, so we have like energy behind that, and you know, Hex. Both on board for that, so I'm curious to see how that shakes out. But for me, the release of this also basically begs the question: like, is this going to go back to America's team? The only Korean left on this roster is Arhan, and both Hyunwoo and Tyrone were the only Korean coaches on this team. So, if you're Arhan, I wouldn't even feel safe to begin with you know, overall job security after his performance in this past season. But he's going to be gone at this point.
And
I'm surprised he's still on the team at this point, because after his Genji performances back, I think in Season 1, he was, in my opinion, wasn't really that good compared to the top players in the league at the time. So,
Even the best players on his team.
I mean, when Jake out Genjis you, is that really a good thing?
Right.
There's that as well. I mean, and the one thing that Houston Outlaws, here's my biggest fear for the Houston Outlaws. The company that bought them is a realtor company, and they have never really had any experience within the esports sphere, other than this current acquisition that they made for $25 million. So my biggest fear with this is that they just see this as more like just, hey, we're going to invest our money and expect maybe a year return maybe in 3 years. We're not really going to do much to change it. We're not going to invest that much money. That's my biggest fear coming in with this recent acquisition, is because it feels like maybe this realtor company doesn't know what exactly they're doing, or they've never really owned a sports organization before.
Let alone an esports organization.
Exactly that. And that's kind of my thought process with this team, is that they're going like, oh, well, we see a huge fan base behind it, but why should we?
So let's just exploit that.
exactly the point. And that's why I'm also worried that, like, the thing is, if they start making some changes, like what they did with the coaching staff, I feel like that's an amazing first step. Like, they're actually taking notice that Tyrone was a problem, and they're trying to switch that over. My opinion for the Houston Outlaws in the offseason is start cutting the fat, maybe start, like, getting rid of some players. I don't know if, like, you want to go for some players for fan service, like Rockus and Jake. But overall, I think you need to start building a core around your DPS lineup. Muma, I think Muma should also stick around, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think there's some things that you need to switch up the flex tank. And I think, this is my opinion, I think Rockus is a big problem with using Outlaws.
I think the whole support line needs to go.
I think really the only two people that are worth keeping is Muma and Linkser. Anybody else is pretty much expendable on that roster.
Yeah.
So if the Houston Outlaws don't make any moves this roster season, then I know the mentality of this company.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much unfortunate for all fans of Houston Outlaws coming in the next season. You're like the Season 2 off-season Florida Mayhem coming out the gate just going, yeah, we're budget!
Yeah. We're better.
I think.
We're different.
Better than the Mayhem, I think finally, since we got a coaching staff, I highly doubt that we are better than the Mayhem in any capacity.
But
yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how
hey, they could always call Monty's new company.
What's Monty's new company? I don't think I'm aware of this.
Oh, he has a new. Him and a couple other people have a new esports consulting company for people that just are like, yeah, the video games. I'm gonna go invest in that and buy teams or things like that. Yeah, him and a couple other people have a new consulting firm that does a lot of stuff that helps them with figuring out what esports is, I guess.
Are you sure the consulting firm isn't just a white wall with a stamp on it that says invest in Fortnite and you'll be good?
I hope not, because that's a terrible investment, most likely, for esports at least. All right, so is there any other news that you guys can think of? That's pretty much all I've seen. I feel like most of the news is going to be not until after the finals are over. That's when we're going to start seeing a lot more people getting dropped and picked up, especially once like free agency officially opens up. I think that's sometime next week.
Yeah.
So we'll probably get a lot more news then.
DJ Khalid is not going to be involved in the finals. That's news.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That's good.
That's some good news. Zed actually he did the opening ceremony for the 2016 League of Legends finals in the Los Angeles Staples Center. So that's something good. That's something of his track record. But did you guys already talk about? Okay.
It's someone that likes video games, and it's something that actually appeals to. Because I don't know anyone. Well, Kel and I listen to a lot of metal, so there's nobody in our circle that listens to DJ Khalid. So.
Okay, first off, nobody likes DJ Khaled. He's actually a blimp on society for the most part. He kind of like mooches off of other people's concerts and hopes to get like that fame.
Oh, he's that guy.
Fame. Yeah, that's why I constantly have to say his name.
He wasn't good from the start. Everyone knew that this was going to be a fluke from the beginning. And like they said, hey, last minute, we'll just bring this guy. They could have literally pulled a band off of New York City and had a better opening ceremony than fucking DJ Khaled.
They could have pulled some
random guy from the subway performing.
That would have been like best. Like, hey, it's Hobo Bob. What up, man? Yeah.
Right.
Can you play these notes? Just play this song over and over again.
They already pulled someone from a county fair to headline BlizzCon last year, so it wouldn't be the first time.
Why not? Why not? It's good. It's good business. And plus, I used to be in a band myself. I would have fucking killed for an opportunity like that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that Blizzard should have done.
I would have killed for an opportunity like that too. I mean, it's just finding the right people. Like Zed, I think is great, and I also think the guy from the Roots. Damn it, his name is escaping me. Oh, Questlove, yes. Because I actually don't mind the Roots, and I don't listen to that kind of music because of guys like that. I mean, he's gonna do I think he's gonna do a really good job with that, and it's also good that he's in the video games. So.
Right.
It also helps where he's not like, "Hey, Overwatch people," or fuck. Anyway,
I guess there is one other little bit of news. Is Philly officially broke ground on their arena today? Was another notable thing. I don't think so I thought that they had already like at least started it in some form, but apparently not. So I don't know if it's even going to be ready for any of their games.
Oh, absolutely not. Not this season. Like,
not.
The funniest thing I thought about that was the fact that Carpe was there. When you have someone who's actively trying to move to another Korean squad, whether it's New York or London, that part really drove it home for me.
Should we just consider Seoul Dynasty to be like the retirement home for South Korean players at this point?
Oof.
Wow.
Well, Seoul's going to be a powerhouse team once, we do go home and away.
What kind of imaginary thoughts have you been having? Because I'm pretty sure I have not.
Oh, this is good.
Well, Seoul's looking at poaching from Element Mystic, so they can get the DPS duo of Sparkle and XCI. They'll be pretty set. But that's another team that's going to restructure. But you have to think, with the amount of home and away games coming up now, a lot of the Korean talent is going to be wanting to be closer to home.
Yeah,
So
and then you're getting the
gravitate
Chinese teams
towards
too.
The only Korean squad.
Playing for New York might be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know. What is Sterling planning to do in the offseason? Hopefully he's got something. I don't even know if he cares about his ownership on the team. But when it comes to the Seoul Dynasty, here's my opinion on it. Like, their main tank lineup is literally a coin flip away from either retirement or completely falling on their ass. Because here's the thing. You look at main tanks like Miro, Zephyr. My experience with him has not been the best. And you also look at Fisher recently. I think, here's my opinion on like Seoul picking up Fisher. It was a huge risk from the start.
It wasn't a good fit to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. We knew this guy had behavioral problems at the start, and they thought, hey, we're like the New England Patriots. We could probably change this guy.
You see Antonio Brown.
You see Antonio Brown completely leave the stage. But, of course, like, I'm not saying...
Minus the rapey things.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not get into that too much.
Well, no, we're not going to get into that, but I'm just throwing it in case anyone gets...
But what I will say, they have been taking quite a bit of risks, I'd say, when it comes to their main tank lineup, and that's fine to do so. I think they've done a lot better than they did last season, making it from not making the playoffs at all to actually making the playoffs is a huge step. I think what they made both seasons, they made 8th place.
And looking pretty good in the play-in. I will give them that. They look pretty good there.
Unfortunately, they had to play against the Vancouver Titans, and then they had to play against New York Excelsior. So that wasn't... Oh, not New York Excelsior, sorry. It was a San Francisco... Sorry, I'm losing my mind for a minute.
Hangzhou? They lost to Hangzhou.
Oh, Hangzhou.
Yeah, Hangzhou, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, San Francisco played against London. So, yeah, they didn't have, like, the best of scenarios for them. But, I find them to be kind of similar to the Philadelphia Fusion. You're like your run-of-the-mill average of the pack team. You're not going to, like... I don't think they have the capacity to compete with teams like San Francisco, the Vancouver Titans, or like anybody in the top 5 right now.
Right now, but a couple of tweaks here and there, though, they'll be there.
It's the DPS line. It's the biggest issue right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love Fleta, but to me, he seems a little too passive sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like a little too calculated passive. Maybe it's not him. It's the... I don't know.
It might just be their overall play style with Fleta. I feel like he's just a guy that...
They're waiting.
He'd be one of those guys where going to a new team might be best for him. So that'll be interesting to see where he ends up if they do decide to do that. Which, I mean, obviously Totem's a big Seoul Dynasty fan, so we know that's very likely to happen.
I'm just waiting for you to roast my team because I'm like setting you on fire right now with these guys. Come
well.
on.
What hasn't been said about Florida Mayhem?
We can't really set them on fire anymore, man.
They're already on fire.
It's like
what
we're
more
already
can you do?
ash. Like, what are you gonna do? Piss on us to make you feel a little bit better about yourselves? I mean, yes.
You take a big poo on the ash. That's about it.
Right.
Just drop a deuce on the ash. That's the only way you're gonna make it any worse. But we went over 500 in the last stage. So
one stage. That's the one thing I think the Philadelphia Fusion were unable to do. No, was it Philly? I think it was. I think I might be going insane at that point. But yeah, no.
If Philly just doesn't care, their players don't give a shit what they're doing right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. And like with DeFi, like LFT right now, I'm thinking, you know what? Comcast has got the money. They could probably pick him up if they really need to and say bye-bye to Name Hwai and Hayes. Because I think that's what their biggest problem is in their coaching staff. Like, you're talking the most average of the average in Overwatch League. Both seasons they made either 6th place or 10th place. Like, really straight down the middle on the pack. And this season, I think, they were 2 games with 15 and 13 for their season.
Well, they got lucky last year that there was a double sniper meta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not to mention the fact they played both the Shanghai Dragons and the Florida Mayhem 4 times. That also packed up 8 more games on their schedule, so that made them a little bit better.
So that it's like the AFC East.
Yeah, no, basically
pretty much.
A bunch of hot garbage and a couple of teams maybe that are better than average,
right.
Like New York and Philly, that just feed off that.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right. So let's talk. So, I mean, we've pretty much been over of how we got to this point plenty of times, but let's just dive into the meat of this. We got this Sunday is the grand finals. This season has been insane, and the fact that we've already gotten to this point is amazing. And I mean, I don't think anybody really would have been surprised if you'd have told them at the beginning of the season that this is the matchup we would be getting of having Vancouver playing San Francisco. Maybe at the very beginning you'd be like, nah, I think there will be another team that might be able to do it. But after stage 1, I feel like everybody realized, these two teams are they're just a step above everybody else. But so let's talk about Vancouver and their what do they need to do to win this game?
Mind if I start?
Go for it.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I have to take away from the Vancouver Titans throughout the current postseason, more or less, I think that's what we're going to take a primary focus on, is that they have a staunch weakness when it comes to 2 specific hybrid maps, and that is Kings Row and New Bonnie. Those have been the 2 maps that they have currently a 0 win percentage on throughout the offseason, losing to teams like the New York Excelsior and the Los Angeles Gladiators, and I think also the Seoul Dynasty, took a map off of them like Kings Row. So right now, hybrid maps don't seem to be in their favor right now. So I think they're going to be doing their darnest to really grind with it. But I think also the biggest issue with the Vancouver Titans is that they don't really have a whole lot of options when it comes to their roster. I've looked at through every single game that they had this in off-season or postseason. They have not swapped out one player throughout the offseason. Now, more or less, I think it's just the fact that they just have a more solidified roster, similar to the New York Excelsior. They've always done the same guys over and over and over again during the postseason, and they have more of a solidified stance. But you still look at the San Francisco Shock, their ability to constantly swap out their DPS characters here and there, and to show that they are still a dominant force no matter what they have, really makes you wonder, does the San Francisco Shock have a lot more up their sleeve than the Vancouver Titans? So I think the biggest problem that Vancouver Titans are going to have to deal with is the hybrid maps. The hybrid maps, I think, are just going to be their biggest hurdle over against the San Francisco Shock, who currently have swept the board in the lower bracket. So if they can't seem to deal with them in those maps, then I think they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, even if they can't do that, I think they've played well enough in the other portions of things. But yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for if they can at least get everything together and take at least one of those. I think that would go a long way to help them win. But let's let Totem. I want to hear your thoughts on the Titans.
Titans are going to be an interesting story because primarily when you look at these 2 teams, they have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. And for me, looking at the Titans, the tank line has probably been the biggest problem with this team. Yes, they made the swap bench and bumper in favor of playing Tizzy for the playoffs. And Tizzy didn't pull an I remix. It wasn't a one and done like it was from the Gladiators whenever they benched Fisher. So I was thankful to see that. But when you compare the 2 tank lines, it's been a night and day difference. Troy Hobin has been a much better Sigma across the board. Janu's been very shaky on that role, but Titans, to their strength, have basically come in and they've really put themselves in control in regards to King of the Hill, which in the playoffs has been probably the most important map type, just because it's always a one lead into the breaks, and they're currently 6-0 on control throughout the playoffs so far. But when you look at the other pieces, these 2 teams are neck and neck, but the tank differential is going to be pretty substantial. But it's just a matter of do you favor the hot hand in here, and how much do you feel like those 2 weeks off is going to benefit the Titans? Because yes, the Shock have run shot through everyone. You know, they had that snafu on Rialto, and then they 4-0'd everyone else. But in hindsight, that also means that there's a lot more tape on them. Regardless of how shaky the Titans have looked, these are teams that, at least in the Titans' case more so, you know, they're used to being put in this position, whether they're the favorites, whether they're the underdogs. And when it comes to performing in the clutch, that runaway core has that championship pedigree, much to a greater extent as opposed to the Shock. But at the end of the day, these two teams are very close. There's not really one, like, map type that is, like, hugely overgross in regards to the head-to-head throughout, you know, the course of the season. Because map record-wise, throughout the season, like, it's been 11-11. These teams are as close as you can get. I'm just happy that at the end of the day, we're getting the two best teams in the grand finals. Like, it was meant to happen from the get-go. Yeah. And this is totally a rubber match. They're 2-2 in the season series. So we didn't get the two matches in the playoffs like many of us expected to see. So it just makes this one that much more meaningful when all is said and done.
Yeah, I agree. I think one, like, any deficiencies that the Titans have in their tank line is compensated pretty well with their DPS and their supports. I mean, the support play that they have had in this postseason has been unreal. I feel like what Twilight and Slime have been able to do has just been incredible. As well as obviously what Haxel and Siomansu and then
Stitch
have all done to help carry that as well, I think has been huge for them. And the fact that they've made the changes that they did is pretty interesting, but still having the composure that they do, I think you make a very good point of having that championship pedigree is going to go a long way for this team.
I do also want to mention, I know LEGO brought up Kings Row. And while, yes, they have struggled in the playoffs in this, that's also the map out of everything head-to-head that is the most one-sided between these two teams, as every time Titans have played the Shock on Kings Row, the Titans have won.
Things have changed, man. I can safely say that right now. If you look at the San Francisco Shock going not 1, not 2, but 4 games in a row where they won 4-0 in the playoffs, I add. That whole shit where that's what happened in the regular season just goes out the window. Especially when you're talking about the playoffs right now, where tensions are way higher and everyone is just amped up to win the next game.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I think one thing with that, though, is the fact that they had to play so many games. I really do think that is a big factor in that there's just so much more tape on what they're doing. Obviously, there's a lot less maps than some other teams, than any other teams there would have been. So it might actually be kind of close as far as actual time played. But you can see those strategies that they're doing and possibly be able to pick apart things that you can take advantage of. Because there are so many more instances where they would be doing those.
The one thing I worry about with San Francisco, to me, they need to take that first map.
Yeah.
Because I think with the confidence and the experience that the Titans have, if San Francisco can rip that first control map away from them, it's going to boost up San Francisco's confidence. But I don't think it's going to really necessarily take the Titans down. But if the Titans kind of roll them, because they're really good on the control maps, I think San Francisco can get into a little bit of a panic. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see that happen because they don't have the amount of pedigree, experience, and all that. And plus, I always call the Titans, I call them the Borg from Star Trek because they fucking adapt, man. They figure out what you're doing at some point.
Whenever you knock them down, they just get right back up and they've got something else.
Okay, I know what you're doing now. And they've had all this tape on San Francisco. I just think that for this to be I think it's going to be a decent match, but I think for it to be like a classic, San Francisco has to come out generally they're picking Busan first, from what I've seen. They come out and they don't necessarily have to 2-0 them. They come out and they say, hey, look, we're here, we're not screwing around, and let's go. If they do that first, they establish, look, we don't care how many maps you've won, how many times you won on control maps and all that stuff. We're setting this up. We're gonna come at you. It doesn't matter. I'm thinking it's gonna be good. If Vancouver comes out and they beat them on that, I think San Francisco gets a little panicky, which I've noticed that they do sometimes. But the Kings Row thing, it's so hard to say. Like now, we're like what in our third meta of the season.
Yeah.
So it's like some of these map things, it's like, yeah, okay, we won on this and that, but I think, to me, the Titans supports are, it's mostly Twilight for me. That's kind of a tick better. There's something about him that's just better than Violet that kind of leads me to, I start leaning towards the Titans, and then 5 minutes from now, I could switch. It is true. I've done it like 16,000 times in the last week.
Yeah,
right.
The problem when we talk about adaptability between these two teams is we've seen the Titans be slower to adapt to things that are considered off-kilter to whatever the current meta is. Now, it's very prominent when the Titans went up against the Excelsior. When Excelsior tried to do that shit against the Shock have always had this way of just instilling whatever they want to do. They've had their own way about going into every different meta. They've looked better than pretty much every team in the league at this point, sometimes even better than Titans, but granted, it's 2-2 at that point. But the Shock just seem to have their own way of doing things that is just a step above the rest, and if you're going into this thinking that whoever adapts better is going to win, I don't think you're going to rely so much on that as opposed to just who's going to win outright in the current, Doomfist battle that we're going to have between Hoxel and, of course, you have Sinatra on the other end. I would not be surprised if, the Doomfist player ends up walking away with the MVP, but there's been situations when we've seen Doomfist players struggling to get any sort of initiation. And, we haven't really seen that from either one yet, so it could just be a matter of getting that first kill initially. Obviously, winning the first control map has been one of the biggest things throughout the entirety of the playoffs, because whoever wins that first map has been winning the vast majority of the series. But I don't think we're going to see a situation where either one of these teams is going to fall into an early deficit 0-2 at this point, and then happen to, panic. But it is worth noting, too, Striker did recently suffer a scooter injury.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think
he's still going to play. It's not as bad as, what the photos look like, so I don't think that's really going to have any sort of, negative impact on how the Shock are going to fare in this series. But it really just makes me laugh. I'm just like, man, you picked a really shitty time
to just
be doing that, man.
It's like when Trevor Bauer cut his freaking hand fixing his drone a couple of years ago in the playoffs for my baseball team.
That really is the question. If Striker doesn't start, would that be a huge blow to the San Francisco Shock? Could Rascal pick up the slack that Striker has been bringing to the other teams, because he has started in every single game this offseason so far?
Yeah, I think that could make a big impact. So yeah, let's dive into a little more of what are the win conditions for San Francisco? What do they need to do to win this game, or to win the series?
Look, I don't even think there's a condition that could say that they can lose. You've looked at the past couple of games they played so far. No matter what map they throw at them, they are going to completely crush you to dust if they get the opportunity with the San Francisco Shock. I think for the most part, yeah, at least that. I would think that it more or less falls under the Vancouver Titans to see if they can find themselves a proper win condition, and that is maybe winning on maps that the San Francisco Shock picks. And that really comes down to, like, if you win a map, can you stay consistent with that? And I think that's what's going to be a big problem here is for the Vancouver Titans is that San Francisco Shock pretty much have all their weaknesses in the palm of their hands against the Vancouver Titans. Yeah, sure, you can say the Atlanta Reign game was an example of them, choking when the iron was hot, or like when they were like the hottest team at the time. But even so, I think that, there's a lot more issues with the Vancouver Titans when it comes to map selection, and also the fact that the San Francisco Shock can play whatever map they can. So it's more or less just coming down to the fact that, in order for them to really seriously get a Game 7, I would have to say, is winning San Francisco Shock's map picks. And that's my 2 cents on that possibility. But overall, I think San Francisco Shock are just the utter dominant team in this instance.
Totem?
I mean, for me, a lot of this is going to boil down to just the overall fight initiations, and a lot of that is going to be put on Choi Ho-bin, looking to land the rock throws on Hoxel whenever he tries to come in with the rocket punch in this case. The other situations, line to line, are fairly even. I think the Titans do have a slight edge in regards to the supports. But, there's been a number of occasions during the postseason where we've seen these Lucios trying to drop a sound barrier on elevated ground, like whether they're trying to jump on a box to make sure, there's not as big of a jump difference. But there's been moments when we've seen Sinatra coming in and just landing that perfect right click before the sound barrier can even hit. So even like a minor mistake like that from either one of these Lucios is going to be able to turn the tide and ultimately be one of these teams undoing. But for the Shock, the best thing to me would be if this series goes the distance and for the Shock to close it out, winning on Rialto after what happened in that rain game. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if you're the Shock,
I don't think
you want to close it early.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to be Vancouver playing that map in the last match, or in a match 7. Yeah, I definitely would not want to be Vancouver in that situation.
Vancouver has a record speed on that map, don't they?
Rialto, yes.
Yeah.
But I think I'm kind of down with what Totem was saying. I don't know. I'm having trouble with this one. I don't. Maybe it's like the NFL fan in me just trying to figure out a way that the Patriots don't win. But I just think the Titans, they, like I said with the control map, that first map is going to determine a lot in this match. If San Francisco comes out and says, hey, we're not screwing around, like I said before, I think they could snowball that a little bit. But I think the Titans, they need to actually, what it really boils down to is the Doomfist stuff, really, for me. If they can outplay Sinatra a little bit, why am I fucking blanking? Jesus Christ. Haxel. If Haxel can outplay Sinatra on the Doomfist, I think, because no one has really done that yet to San Francisco. I mean, Erster did a little bit to them, but it was more them getting used to the Sigma stuff. I think really against Atlanta, that match was that close. I think that if Haxel can out Doomfist Sinatra, that's going to be a big thing for them. Because the Reaper play to me is it's kind of like a secondary thing. The Doomfist stuff is the big shit.
Well, that's where the early picks come from, and the early picks are what are really critical to any kind of thing like that. Like, getting those early picks turns the tide of a game so quickly that I mean, it's going to be huge. So yeah, I'm with you on that. It's really going to come down to who's going to be the better Doomfist. And right now, I mean, you have 1A and 1B as far as the two best Doomfists in the league. So it really is a toss-up. But I slightly lean more towards Sinatra just because, like, when it really comes down to those crunch times, like, that dude just comes up with plays that just no one has any business making. And I think that might be what it ends up coming down to.
The amount of 3Ks he gets, like, just out of nowhere is ridiculous.
Right.
I just want to watch this freaking match. It could have started last week, and I would have been fine with it.
Right.
All of the talk aside, I just want to see these two teams go at it one more time, and just at least we got this. That for me, where I have the internal debate of this could go either way. It's not like kind of last year where I'm going, London's pretty much my pick. Even though Philly did what they did, it's kind of you look at the rosters and you're like, London's superior. In this, you're like, this could go either way, to me at least. A lot of people are really heavily leaning on the Shock. Yeah, they went through the lower bracket, but, the Titans did go through the upper bracket and kind of just, the New York Excelsior were supposed to be really, a big deterrent to them going anywhere. They stopped them. Granted, they didn't get to play a Shock up there. It's just, for me, it's hard. I don't know who I'm gonna pick anyway. It could happen on Sunday. I could pick something today and then pick something again on Sunday.
You're gonna change after every map.
I'm not that guy. Once I pick something, I stick with it. Sort of.
Yeah. My 2 cents. I mean, of course, like, we could always go, like, back and forth, like, I'm gonna think they're gonna win just because, they're gonna win this specific map or whatnot. I know, like, I'm kind of like blowing smoke out of my ass here, but what I can say, for the most part, what is going to be the determining factor between these two games is just between the two teams' mindsets. You look at the way that Krusty has been able to organize this team from start to finish, despite starting a season 4-3. They've been a powerhouse ever since. They finally kicked it into gear and started to really figure out what the starting lineup is going to be and what they're going to be working with throughout the season. Despite the fact half their team being English speaking, half the team being Korean speaking. So it more or less just comes down to can they recover if they lose a map? Can they recover if they're like in a deficit, like on halfway through a map in Rialtos? They're like Vancouver Titans had another record-breaking map takeover with like 5 minutes on the clock and stuff like that. And that's really what it's going to come down to is like which team has the stronger mindset. That's all I really got to say at that point, because you could say like, oh, you could say Sinatra's Doofus is amazing. Oh, wow, you could say Roy Open is like this amazing Sigma, yada, yada, yada. But it really just comes down to the mindset at this point. Because the talent is there. The coaching staff is there. Everything is in perfect harmony. The question is the mindset. Will we have another, oh my god, I can't believe I see 9 moth face? Or will we have a, holy crap, we did it Dogman kind of face? That's literally what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I kind of agree with that. Who's going to be the ones that have that don't have the moment where they just, Sabiobi has to grab their hand and say, calm the fuck down.
Exactly.
It's the big time.
It's stuff like that you knew the XL were going to lose. Like, at that point, so you're done.
Yeah. No one wants to come in after getting dropped 0-3.
No. Oh, no. And then say, hey, you're the savior. You're going to bring us back. Mm-hmm. Nope.
I think the biggest thing we've gathered from this is that I don't see it being a stomp either way. I would be absolutely stunned if either team just rolls over the other.
It would be shocking to me if I saw the San Francisco Shock go 4-0. Like, I'm just saying, like, the train is there, and it could possibly be that way, but...
I think that would be the lesser of the two, but I still think it's probably... We're going to see at least 6 maps, I'm thinking.
I mean, Washington 4-0'd the Titans, so anything is fucking possible, in my opinion.
This is true.
This is true.
All right, so let's do our final predictions. Who you got?
I guess I'll... you want to start?
I was gonna say, like, I'm just gonna stick with my gut. I have the Shock winning it 4-2.
All right.
You know, on my podcast, I know my co-host, I let him pick for the most part because I'm always trying to argue for like the other side. So of course he picked the Shock, and then I had to counter argue and say like, all right, I'm picking the Vancouver Titans. Do I genuinely believe the Vancouver Titans are going to win this game? It's got to be a major mental fortitude here. Like, I know I'm going to, like, say the typical things like, oh, you just got to win against, like, their map picks. It's totally going to work for you if you just do that. Just win. The case with the Titans right now is that they have kind of struggled. I mean, I wouldn't say struggle, but they have lost maps to lesser teams that the San Francisco Shock eats for breakfast. And, like, that's the mindset that I have right now, because while they were barely able to beat the New York Excelsior in the upper bracket finals, the San Francisco Shock were able just to destroy them in the lower bracket like it was nothing. So obviously the iron is hot for the San Francisco. But you know what? I think we're going to have Jeff Kaplan somehow sprinkle some kind of magic out of nowhere. And by that I mean like maybe some weird glitch or maybe some Hallelujah Saber patch that maybe came in last second or whatever. I do think that just out of sheer coincidence, the Titans are going to win. And that's just basically based off of me rolling the dice or flipping a coin to see who's going to win. And I'm only doing this with the Titans because I feel like, you know, everyone's expecting the Shock to win. But, you know, karma or, like, whatever the universe likes to determine for games and whatever. We always like to determine the football gods for the Super Bowl. Of course, for Overwatch, we got Jeff Kaplan, but then again, he's not really a god, more of a man-made disaster in some instances. But the reason why I'm going with the Titans in this one is because there's so much hype behind the San Francisco Shock. There's like so much hope for the San Francisco Shock that I think the balance of the scales is just going to flood over to the Titans. That's just my weird superstition about it. Of course, with us being sports fans, we always have weird superstitions about whatever's happening. So I'm going with the Titans because there's just too much hype over the San Francisco Shock. That's my logic.
Fair enough. Misfit, who you got?
Oh, I'm kind of... Today? Yeah.
In this moment, right now.
Right now?
Who's your pick right now?
Right now?
I know it'll probably change at some point. But.
You know,
we'll circle back.
That was quite an inspiring speech for the Titans, for me, actually. Yeah. That being said, I'm going to go with the Shock today. Me and my dog are going to watch the Shock because he's actually a Shock fan. I don't know if you guys ever watched our Twitter feed. My dog watches the Shock. Like, I watch Overwatch League all the time, and the only team that he will sit down and watch is the Shock. So I'm backing my dog up, and I'm going to go with the Shock. Mostly, I think it's going to be close. Today, I think it's going to be close. I think, end of the day, I think the Shock's just their sheer will and just like the fact that they didn't get to face them once and knock them out in the winners bracket. They're just like they're on this pissed off against the world train. I kind of can't go against it right now. I just when they're angry and they're playing to get like they did in stage 2, they're frightening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of the mentality they're going into this game with, and ever since they lost to Atlanta, that's kind of how they've looked. So I do. So in my bracket, I did have San Francisco winning it all. But just to be a contrarian, I am going to pick Vancouver. Because I do think that they do have a very good shot at winning this, simply because of their championship pedigree. I think will play a major factor in this, because they're not just going to lay down and take it. There's no way. They're just too good. They're too talented, and they're too hungry for this. So I'm going to go with Vancouver, and I'll probably regret that.
Well, you might not.
Yeah, maybe not. Who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? It could be 3-1 by tomorrow. I could change my fucking mind.
Hey, join the club, man. Picking Vancouver isn't the first regret I had being part of the Overwatch League. I can tell you that.
Well, I can see by your jersey. I understand. And I did that again this year, too. So,
right.
I got 2 teams. Yay, me. But yeah, that I keep saying to Kel and Totem, you might back this. These 2 teams, it's like watching Attitude Era WWE, like DX going up against a corporation. San Francisco being DX. As long as Super comes out of the back to Road Dogg's fucking, oh, you didn't know at some point, I'll be good. You better call somebody.
Oh man, I hope to God we get that at some point. So what are your guys' plans? Totem, what are your plans for programming for this? Are you guys doing any live streams and special things?
Well, I mean, Sunday I'm leaving work early because normally I have to work until 2. I was like, yeah, I'm giving it a what.
Yeah.
I'm probably just gonna hang out in Discord. I don't know if I'll be like on my phone or if I'll be on my computer because like I really don't want to be like at my computer watching the finals. I'd rather just have it up on the big screen.
Yeah.
Outside of that, really not a whole lot going on. Maybe I'll do like a VOD review at some point afterwards, maybe on that Monday or Tuesday, since some of the other stuff is seasonal and out of season at this point for the podcast. But no, really not a whole lot. I want to be home watching the grand finals on the big screen. And if we get to troll some people along the way, even better.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Lego, what's your guys' plans?
Well, for me, I know this weekend I'm going to be walking over to Doak Campbell Stadium to watch NC State play against FSU. Hopefully we won't choke again like we did in the last couple of games.
You're an FSU fan too, so am I.
I am currently a student at FSU right now, so
right on.
For me. Yeah.
My second cousin Dane goes there, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dane Horton. He's in the jock dorm. He was a quarterback. He was a quarterback in high school.
I don't think he's unless if his name is Horny Brook. I don't.
I think he's redshirted.
We'll see if Taggart can get something going on. I know he hasn't right now. But yeah, for after this, I'm planning to do a lot of stuff in the off season. I hope that maybe if I get in more contact with a couple more fan-made podcasts, we could probably do like a fake mock draft or something like that when like all the players are selected.
Nice.
Probably like do some weird reactions and whatnot. I don't know. I got way too many big plans, and if they're overzealous for me to actually execute, then I'm the one that's getting in trouble for it. So.
Fair enough. Well, for us, I will be working that day because I'm an idiot and requested off this past weekend, and not next weekend. But Misfit will be on.
Yeah.
He will be on Discord, and
I might stream
with people while he does that. But we'll definitely be doing our Sunday night back cap, our normal time, between 10 to 10:30 on Sunday night Eastern time, and then we will be taking a 1-month break while Misfit goes on vacation, and then we're going to be doing our whole off-season slew of whatnot, going through each team and each tier of teams and breaking down their season, and then we'll talk about all the off-season happenings and whatnot.
And so hopefully that with Florida and Boston.
Yes,
pretty much. But we do want to have definitely have some of the guys from the different team-centric podcasts on for each of those, just so we can talk those specific teams. So
yeah,
we'll definitely be in touch with Lego Man for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that could be a long discussion.
I mean, this offseason I'm a lot more happier than what we're doing last season. So at least we have something going on. But,
you got that, and it's going to be like 3 months shorter.
Yeah.
So that'll be great for everybody.
You don't have to run. You don't have to run around going, "Hey, so San Francisco hired a guy to write copy for their videos that they do. So here we are. What do we think about that?"
News of the week.
I mean, hey, the only news for the Florida Mayhem right now is that we hired an MC called Squash.
Okay.
He's going to be at Full Sail in Orlando. I don't know. I hadn't met the guy, but I'm not going to drive 3 hours to meet him.
Well, the one thing I could say about our team is when we're not making news, sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah.
When we're quiet and we're not okay, there's way too much shit going on. Can we just stabilize for a minute and figure things out? I live in Cleveland.
You don't get another flurry of moves 1 week before the season starts again.
No, it won't be 1 week.
Or a week into the season.
Yeah. We wait till the day of the season to do that. We're going to release everybody, and there's a whole new squad coming in tomorrow. See you then.
God.
Sorry, man.
All
right,
the Florida Mayhem is just going to be, we're dropping quite a bit of our tank players, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I respawn.
I respawn. All right.
Sorry.
So, Totem, anything you want to plug? Go ahead.
I mean, I do right now it's 2 podcasts a week. So Mondays we have Overwatch League Network, which we stream at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then Wednesdays we have our variety Overwatch show, Heroes Never Die, which is Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time.
All right.
And
sorry.
I got some BlizzCon news soon. I can't reveal them yet, as we're still coming up with names for some stuff.
Excellent. Nice.
Awesome.
LEGGEEMAN, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, if you guys want to follow me, I have a podcast, Mayhem Maniacs. We are on Podbean. We're also on the big platforms like Spotify and also iTunes. Usually we try to post our episodes on Tuesdays if my recording editor gets the episode done like the next day that we do the podcast like Monday nights. So, yeah, if you guys want to follow us there. We also have a Twitter, guys. We post some stuff, tweets, some updates, news on the Florida Mayhem. I'm still in talks with John Kraken, the president of the Florida Mayhem, see if we can get some more interviews going on in the future with maybe some players, maybe possibly bare hands. But of course, right now we are still like in talks to see if we can make that happen. Of course, right now, PR and me being a masochist makes that a little bit more difficult. But
I can't say sorry, man, right now, but can I?
When's the live coverage for Avascon?
Avascon, yes. I actually did an interview with Avas. I can't believe I haven't posted it yet. But Avascon most likely will be played in Miami, and I think he also said on the his Twitch that he says, "Oh yeah, we're probably gonna do it right when Florida Mayhem Homesteads happens in Miami at Miami's basketball stadium." So that's most likely what it's gonna be. It's like a Homestead and Avascon combined.
Okay.
So are we actually sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese?
We're still talking. We're still talking. They're still talking to Chuck E. Cheese corporate, so they have no idea what's going on.
They probably don't know what esports is at all, but this guy is doing this stream and he keeps...
Honestly, it would be a brilliant PR move or business move for Chuck E. Cheese to start putting in some kind of gaming lounge or something like that.
Upgrade a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, their demographic is vulnerable children, so they might as well go ahead
and upgraded from skee ball and
so they have to watch the Florida Mayhem.
Yeah. More shit to clean up, just like at Chuck E. Cheese.
It makes you stronger as you grow older, watching just sad things like that.
Son, you look at this and see the Patriots. Just because of where you live, this is the team that you are cheering for. If you cheer for other team, people will criticize you for being an idiot. But you'll still be happy if you cheer for them.
Oh, I mean, I'm a Browns fan, so I understand.
Even this year.
Yeah, right. Oh,
I can't really say anything because I'm a Broncos fan in football. I'm getting my team is jokes.
Get in your O-line, you Browns.
It's not even the O-line, it's just the offense in general. It's just a mess. But we got a good defense.
The opposite of what everyone thought was going to happen.
But then at the same time, for everybody to expect them to meet the expectations that they were going to have going into this season was just absurd.
Well, just even having expectations is absurd.
Well, yeah, for the Browns. We're definitely not used to that. Fair enough.
Here's the biggest thing I've always noticed throughout these podcasts. We always spend at least a good 15% of the podcast talking about our football teams.
Yeah.
It's like we're already droning the days that we're in the off season.
That's that's most of the conversations that Misfit and I have anyway.
Notice I'm not talking about mine other than my team's terrible. There's nothing to talk about. Other than the fact that...
You guys don't even have a sack yet, and you have two of the best sack leaders in the league.
I want to punch Aaron Rodgers in the face. That's all I got to say. That'll dirty his uniform
Von Miller
up.
wasn't able to, so,
Or Nick Chubb, or Derek Wolfe, or 15 other guys that could have...
No, Nick Chubb is disappointing on my team, not on your team.
Oh, I always call Bradley Chubb.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us so much. You can always check out our stuff on at Overtake_OWL on Twitter is our Twitter tag. We will be kind of changing some of that stuff in the off season. Just
we're going to be updating a little bit,
and just getting more cohesive branding across the board, and all of that. But definitely check us out on Sunday for our Sunday night back cap. We will definitely be here doing that.
I could hang out on Twitter for a little bit and just, do some match talking, yelling at the thing. Depends on if the Broncos are in this.
Again, with the NFL references.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
But can I talk Rangers hockey? Can we do that? Or
oh God.
Okay,
Yankees baseball?
Something different. I mean, for Christ's sake, it's like talking about baseball during a hockey podcast is what I'm saying right now.
It happens.
All right. But yeah, that's gonna be it for tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. Anybody that is watching on YouTube or Twitch or Mixer, thank you for joining us. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like, a subscribe. We appreciate that for everybody that has done that. Anybody that is listening later on their podcatcher of choice, thank you for doing that as well. And don't forget to give us a review and just promote us any way you can. And we appreciate anybody and everybody that has done any of that. So thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Later.
Catch you guys later. Thanks a lot.